Last night at 9:42 p.m., Ricky Gray was finally executed by the state of Virginia for the murder of the Harvey family. On New Year's Day in 2006, Ricky and his accomplice Ray Joseph Dandridge were lurking around the Woodland Heights neighborhood for a house to rob when they came across an open door and decided to invite themselves in. What happened next began the nightmare that will forever haunt the lives of those closest to the Harvey family. All four, including the parents, Brian and Kathy, and their two children, Ruby and Stella, were tied up before having their throats sliced with a knife and dying from heavy blows to the head with a hammer. The home was then set on fire as they ran off with a computer, a wedding ring, and a basket of cookies. A few days later, the two murdered another family in South Richmond in their homes. The victim included Ashley Baskerville, her mother Mary Tucker, and stepfather Purcell Tucker. Eventually they were caught in Philadelphia, where Gray confessed to also murdering his wife, Treva Gray. Outside of Greensville's Correctional Center, an hour south of Richmond, two groups formed in favor and opposition to the death penalty to be carried out. The side that stood in opposition also included Gray's family praying to end the cycle of violence, which is a meaningless sentiment unless you start with ending the violence that occurs at home. In a study published in the Journal of Family Psychology by Elizabeth Gershoff and Andrew Groken-Kaler, examining over 20,000 kindergartners and their parents, found that of all the racial groups, blacks beat up their children the most, surpassing the second highest group, whites, by 10%. This then leads to what many other similar studies have found, especially by Dr. Gabor Maté, that the more a child is spanked, beaten, the more likely that child will become aggressive and experience mental health problems like addiction. Gray's lawyer tried to petition the governor McAuliffe to stop the execution, citing a troubled childhood history that was rife with physical and sexual abuse that led to his PCP addiction. Clemency was denied. On the side that advocates against capital punishment, which is legal in 31 state governments, one would also have to be consistent in holding that view by also advocating for the abolition of government, since the punishment of refusing to comply with government laws can lead to immediate and sudden death. Take Eric Garner or Derek Cruz, for example. Garner was murdered on a public sidewalk by police officer Daniel Pantaleo for allegedly selling untaxed single cigarettes in New York. Cruz was murdered in his home by police officer Todd Rabel for having cannabis plants in his residence in Florida. Or consider Samuel DuBose murdered by police officer Ray Tensing after being pulled over for allegedly missing a license tag. The list of people sentenced to death by government laws of opinions for victimless crimes is lengthy. The number of lives, reputations, and futures destroyed innumerable. The assertion that capital punishment is effective and universally deterring crime becomes irrelevant when the government's monopoly on justice results in the death penalty or permitted murder for the individuals exercising opinions that vary from those held by authority. So could there be capital punishment found in a free society that has market competition for arbitration? It's possible, but unlikely because of economics. As it turns out, it currently stands it costs millions for potential death penalty cases to get through trial. This doesn't even include the appeal process costs. Without the billions of dollars stolen through taxation in order to subsidize these costs, the funding would have to come directly from the wallets of those supporting the death penalty as an option. And when you examine the number of people on death row who have been found to be innocent due to the works like the Innocent Project, finding an insurance company who would risk covering the liability for such cases would be difficult. Economically, the cost of seeking a capital punishment option in a market of arbitration would be too great to outweigh the benefits. Justice for the victim would be better served by via economic reparations instead. It is, after all, only the victim that decides how to proceed with charges and damages sought. If the victim is one of homicide, then anything outlined in his will and testimony in the event would preside over the matter. Or, in the absence thereof, the closest family member would decide in accordance to the rules outlined in the respective community the crime took place in. The Amish, for example, practice forgiveness for all in their culture, which even extended to Charles Roberts in the 2006 school shooting in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. And examining its possible scenario, the cost of millions to get a death penalty case through trial might go down, since a free society wouldn't be burdened with government courtroom inefficiencies and substandard practices of its police officers. Plus, we're also talking about free societies that practice peaceful parenting, which would substantially lower the amount of violent people in the world. Given these variables, the death penalty for murder can exist in accordance to proportional punishment for crimes committed and making the victim whole. What happened to the families that Ricky Gray brutally destroyed is tragic, and in accordance to some of the family members who related to the victim, taking his life away is the appropriate punishment after 11 years in trying to find peace. If it were my family, I would want him to suffer just as they did.
I'm ready to master on my tormented past. Swallow the pain, follow the mental terrain. It takes a hell of a man nowadays to maintain garments bloodstained, face bruised and battered, eyes reflect agony of dreams that were shattered. It never mattered to the so-called general public about my nation's situation and how we rise above it, and they love it when we self-destruct and kill a home. And the greater responsibility, yes, it's still a home. We should know by now that the system is designed for our demise. If we have we'll be left behind. The dollar signs rule. But what about the fool who falls victim to the material world?